Hi there, welcome to the Noah Presgrove case. Today I'm going to be sharing my thoughts as where I'm at with the case, the current situations of what's going on. I would be looking at comments as well too, but I just want to keep it raw today, whether this video comes out on the day I record it or the day later, because I do have another video in between which I'm trying to get out, but unfortunately, once again, I can never find technology or apps, recording services that actually work properly. So I've had to upload clips individually, re-download them in a lower quality, then apply to the editor and then export. But that's all taking quite some time, and that's only for a 12-minute video. But there's not much I can do about that in the meantime, so I'm not too slowed down. I can still talk about the Noah Presgrove case. And welcome to anyone that is watching this live premiere. Share your thoughts in the live chat box. You'll be able to locate that on the right hand side of the screen. You can leave your comments, additional thoughts down below in the comment section, and if you've got any questions. If you want to support this channel in a more practical and anonymous way, and so YouTube don't get all of it because they are very greedy with the percentage cut, down below in the comments, pinned message by me with additional links, one link to become a member on this channel, and then the PayPal link to follow through with. Credit, shout out to those that have done so in recent time. If you want to catch up on recent coverage by me, top right where the eye symbol is, click up there where the eye symbol is. You find the playlist and some loose videos from last night and days before. Be sure to catch up when you do have time. Has been a little bit chaotic and wild recently. Not so much my video, but the chat. But it is what it is. It's what happens. It's like a beacon end of the day. If there's any one person really covering the case, everybody will collect and gather to it. As for the live chat, well, that's just because it's done as a live premiere. You can always watch on replay the video itself. The live chat is just a secondary thing. You don't want to be distracted by it. You just click on full screen mode on the video and then you won't know it's really there. So it's all fine. But I just want to give my thoughts as in what's happened recently. What is the situation? What are we dealing with? In my opinion, it comes across that we're dealing with words versus material. And other people could be more strict and say we're dealing with opinions versus facts. And which one will win? Well, normally facts 10 times out of 10. Is there an example of that? Well, in terms of the term material, that would be the Snapchat post. In terms of the one what I showed you yesterday of Mikey Lair clearly awake but in bed with Logan and Jasmine Milan, there is an available photo for that with the timestamp of 5:27, I believe it is, the same time. Take in mind you got the hour and minute hand, not the seconds. So it's not going to be taken at the same second as the previous photo what we saw. So back-to-back photo snaps ties in line with them being done at the same time, roughly speaking. I would show you the photo now, but this is one whole raw video. I don't want to really use the screen recorder at this moment because I don't trust it. Maybe I can save it for another day and add the photo in. But with the Snapchat post, what you've seen with timestamps available as well, whether people fully agree with them or not, that is a form of material. Some would consider a form of evidence, more so counter evidence in regards to Caden Pressey's timeline. And other people's responses who don't agree with the snaps by saying, oh, it's fake, it's not the correct time, it's been manipulated, altered with. Okay, so I can have some questions in between which I can throw in there and we'll go from there really. And if people who doubt it or have questions, you can respond back to mine in the comments or the live chat. But, you know, it is words, opinions and thoughts versus Snapchat post, which could be considered evidence of some sort. Kind of like hard evidence, because it's a form of physical evidence. It's like a photo, so visual you can look at and try and interpret. Whereas people that say it's been manipulated, well, that's just with words. Up to now, to my knowledge, what I've seen, I just haven't seen any counter evidence to the counter evidence. You get what I'm saying? The whole point of these Snapchat posts that came out was done by people releasing it when they could, supposedly, but also as a means to say Caden Pressey is wrong with his timeline. In fairness, the Snapchat post do counter Caden Pressey, but not his whole timeline. Just more so a specific part, which just so happens to be very important, which has been present at the highway. From 5:21 arriving to then leaving at 5:30, Caden present at the highway, but also mentioned that Brylan, Isaac and Mikey were all there. Do all three of the guys back up Caden Pressey? I wouldn't know, because I've not seen it publicly mentioned by those people. Has it been said in the background? Where did that come from? Who actually heard it? How truthful is it? So with that uncertainty, the unknown, the only thing you can work off from is material photos which may show where they are at a certain time. And that's what just happened, where Mikey Lair at the party house awake, smiling at the time of 5:27, at a time of when Caden still would have been at the highway, the scene, knowing what's happened to Noah. And as well, in relation back to that snap, whilst yes, it can say, well, Mikey was at the home, the party house, Caden said Mikey was with him, someone's telling a lie or making a mistake. But how could you misidentify or make a mistake whether Mikey was there with you or not? Either he was there or he wasn't. You'd be somewhat familiar with his face, name, appearance and presence. And if he's not by your side because he's remaining at the house, it should be obvious, right? So one person's right, one person's wrong. From that Snapchat post, it would highlight that Caden Pressey is wrong about his part of the timeline, a significant part. And that's just making an observation. The counterpoints by people would be, well, that party photo snap could have been taken at a different time. Maybe it wasn't 5:27. Well, for it to make sense, for it to still be valid, but not counter Caden, that snap, if it was altered, would have to be before 5:15, before the news of Noah's death from Caden's timeline. Because by 5:15 onwards, supposedly, most people are upset or crying. There'd be no need or reason to be taking a selfie or a snap and smiling at the same time. It just wouldn't add up or make sense. So when we do look at these different snaps, social media posts, you got to look at the photo itself and the facial expressions, the emotions displayed. And for most part of it, it's been positive, which would imply it must have been taken at a time of when they didn't know about Noah's death. But if the timing clashes with Caden Pressey's timeline, then obviously there is a problem, and that's what's been the case. If by any chance Mikey Lair being in bed with Logan and Jasmine Milan was actually taken earlier on in the day, or more so going back into the night of Sunday, well, yeah, not at a time of when they were sleeping, but just like resting or hanging out in a bed, that it could still timeline with Caden Pressey's timeline of, well, later on going into Monday morning, that's the time 2 in the morning when we went to sleep or rested on the chairs, or as for Mikey, on the floor. And apologies about the mistake made in the last video. Mikey on floor, Isaac on some furniture, Brylan as well. Brylan and Mikey switching places, not Isaac and Mikey, but Brylan and Mikey. Just wanted to correct that if it's not too late. Okay. So it's just a bit of a mess. And, you know, like from the snaps, what I've seen, there is a photo, it's pretty clear. And it should be somewhat clear for you, at least for the last one, what we looked at, where it was like the opaque, but you could still see through, and you could see the face, the expressions, the eyes, could clearly identify who is who and what they were roughly doing in a bed, well, not sleeping, but just resting or just taking a photo. And there's clearly a time added as well. Just happens to be a time of when Caden was aware Noah's dead, but these people are happy and fine, more than likely, because they are unaware that Noah's dead at that point. But why would Caden be aware if he's at the party house? And how would he know? Oh, because of Jack. Well, then Jack tells Caden, Jack tells others, but others don't react, but Caden does. Just doesn't make sense. So more than likely, if you was to believe in the Snapchat post of 527, you'd say no one knew of Noah's death at that point, nor Caden Pressey either. Even though Caden had said at that time and around, people were aware. Could it all come down to a great, unfortunate misunderstanding? And this isn't directly coming from my mouth, but just as a suggestion. Because I did say in the past, at some point, there could be a great misunderstanding where a mistake has been made, not intentional, and maybe other people have decided to run with it, or other people have taken over slightly, and it's just been pushed and pushed and pushed, so people just got to the routine and believed in it. So that in the future, when counterpoints are mentioned, no one will listen, or certain people won't listen. And then if there is a breakthrough in the future, it could be I told you so moment. What I'm getting at is there a very small possibility that when Caden Pressey looked at his phone, instead of it being 5:15, it was 6:15, but another influence around Caden may have believed or suggested 5:15 being the time, and then ran with it from there on then, stuck with it, believed in it, and convinced others. And then ever since, there's been counterpoints made. Now, at the end of the day, a counterpoint, which some people could say is, why would that Snapchat post of Mikey even need to be manipulated in the first place? Whether it has been or it hasn't, why would there be a need to alter and edit it to begin with? Who does it really benefit? At the end of the day, it's all about Mikey, really, isn't it? Caden Pressey mentioning about Mikey being with him at the highway. Snapchat post comes about. Some people push it. Hey, Raf, maybe cover it, show it. There's Mikey, proof he's at the house, and so on. Take in mind, the Snapchat post, the timestamp was provided in the past, some months ago, whether it be by Brooke Bounce Carter directly or another individual on one of the Facebook pages. But the actual photo itself was not provided at the time. I was able to provide it first time round, myself on my channel, later on when it did come about. So there was a delay in between, but the timestamp was provided back then without context of the photo. Now we've brought it back together now. But nevertheless, there was an intent behind it, a way of discrediting or saying that Caden is wrong about his timeline, more so done as a more concentrated focus on a certain aspect, the 521 to 530 section, which is one of the most important parts of the timeline. And that if one thing is proven, which is significant to be wrong from Caden's account of things, then it could cast doubt on anything else within his timeline and start a chain reaction. And maybe with time, some people have started feeling or thinking that way. You know, it can cast doubt when a mistake's made or someone's wrong or a lie is told, whichever way you look at it. And then you start thinking, well, what else is untrue? What else has gone wrong? The next thing that they say that comes out their mouth, is it going to be true or the opposite? It can have a knock-on effect, which is unfortunate. But still, as for Mikey, of all people, that's what the focus was on, proving that Mikey was at the house, not at the highway. Why would the dark side be protecting Mikey Lair when, to be honest, Mikey Lair isn't exactly a popular party goer in comparison to the likes of Noah Presgrove? And that Mikey Lair only showed up really on Sunday onwards, did not attend Friday, did not attend Saturday. How close is Mikey to the other party goers, the likes of Caden, Noah, Jack? And if by any chance Mikey individually was somewhat responsible for Noah's outcome, would other party goers really cover for Mikey? See, I'm just basing it off, if you got like the girls, girl code looking out for one another, anything bad, dodgy happened there, in regards to Noah, they might look after, protect one another. And so family are family, friends and guardians, parents, you'd get that. It's not good. But when there's loyalty, when you care for one another, you might go above and beyond. But someone like Mikey Lair, lone wolf, separate individual, doesn't live there, isn't related to people from there either. As for one's parents, not come up in discussion, probably never will. When you get someone who's not as popular or, on the sideline, no offense, are other people going to go above and beyond to protect that one? And if they just happen to be responsible in some way, would people really go to that length and depth? Or is it more so just at the end of the day that the odd Snapchat post was found, which just so happened to be an example to show that Caden was wrong about a particular point, and that was all? Not protecting Mikey, not covering for him in a dodgy way, but just to say Mikey was elsewhere compared to what Caden has stated. So that's a problem. Would the same effort be done in another area? See, if by any chance there was any other party goers, and even the likes of Jack Newton, if a mistake was made there, or there was a true inconsistency, but there was a Snapchat that showed that Jack wasn't truly asleep, or he was doing other stuff at a certain time when he claimed to be asleep, would the dark side or would other people provide that counterpoint against their own people or against someone that they are close to or know and say, well, you know what, you're right. Just like Caden Pressey said this, Snapchat tells a different story. Same with Jack Newton. Jack may have said this, different Snapchat post tells a different story. I mean, technically, I guess you can interpret it as that's already come out in the past, when at some point Jack Newton had said 11:30 p.m. Sunday night, going to sleep with Carter. That supposedly never happened. Then it being changed to 1 in the morning. But then you look at 1:50 or 1:54 in the morning, and there's that photo post of Noah and Jack Newton in the bathroom. No overlay or timestamp over it to determine it, but that's what people say. I know it doesn't sound good enough, but you saw it yourself. There's no overlay. At least last night when I showed you that Caden Pressey point of view screenshot from his video of Georgia near the kitchen area and the rest of the other people, you saw how clear it was, clearer than the original, or clearer than some external footage which was passed on, etc., through news articles and whatnot. But furthermore, that it showed it from the gallery, the original point of view perspective, the gallery up top with the title or the date, the time. You saw it raw format. But you know what's interesting? And technically speaking, you can actually, such as with iPhone, when you go into the gallery, you click on one of the files, one of the photos, or maybe one of the videos, you click on the information section, you can change the name of the file. You can actually change the date of it as well. Now, yeah, granted, it may say modified if you checked again later or created a duplicate copy. I'm not an expert because I don't need to mess with adjusting times or dates. I take a photo or do a video at the time of when it's done. That's it. No need to adjust it. But if you had adjusted it and changed the date or time, then I think there's a fair possibility that when you go into the gallery again, and then up top where it gives the little title description, it'll give a different time and date, as in whatever time or date you decide to reword it as. So what I'm getting across is, yes, we need to understand, are the double standards or not, that when Caden Pressey is supposedly proven wrong and there is Snapchat counter evidence to show that, would the same be done against Jack from the dark side perspective or not? If not, double standards. But then equally, the possible double standards with, if people from the light side jump at times to the Mikey Snapchat post in the bed and say it's altered with, it's been manipulated, and that's just with words and opinions, but stating it from some perspectives as a fact, jumping on in like that without considering, oh, it's fake, it's been by the dark side, oh, it's been by Brooke Bounds Carter, it's going to be fake anyway. Oh, are we basing off the past or people's previous actions or behaviour and determining that whether it will happen again or not. I won't know everyone's past or how it was in the early days. I can understand that you come across some shady characters, how they may act. They could be fake, they could be liars. Then do they change in the future? Do they become a better person, or does it still remain who they really are? And that's why you're using the past and experiences to determine the likelihood of whether this or that is genuine or not. If so, kind of interesting. Can be a little bit reckless at times, but still, in terms of people jumping to it and saying, well, the Snapchat post of 527 is manipulated and fake. I know it likely is. In my opinion, it probably will be. But you don't have hard counter evidence to counter the counter evidence of Caden Pressey's. It's just not good enough. But the double standard part of, if people are quick to jump on the Snapchat post timestamp of Mikey Lair, are the same people willing to jump on and question the timestamp of Caden Pressey's footage? Whereas yes, the clip that I showed you, or the screenshot from his video that I showed you last night, and I'm only giving you a rough example, there might be other opportunities to do so, like with Brylan slapping Noah, that timestamp as well. But the one at 10:40 or 10:50 p.m. Sunday night, as you saw it, Georgia, Caden pointing the camera that way, then looking around the house briefly. You saw his knee brace, you saw his shoes, and you saw the overlay of the gallery section from the screenshot perspective last night with the time up top. Why is no one questioning that as being altered, manipulated, or fake? Oh, it's because Caden Pressey tells the truth. Oh, it's because Caden Pressey is always consistent, so we don't even need to go there or question it. So you're not even going to question it in the first place, just because you're basing it off whether you like someone or not. That's a little bit reckless. That's conflict of interest, okay? See, Caden Pressey has been a good individual in terms of on my channel. They've never caused any trouble, never caused any harm towards me. I acknowledge that. And the same with really anywhere else. Caden Pressey, in terms of how he's been in interviews, he's not been negative or nasty. He's just said what he's got to say and what he can remember. It's all positive. So you can understand why a handful of people would look up to Caden, acknowledge him, appreciate him, and say lots of positives, because he's putting himself out there in the first place, one of the first individuals to do so to that level, whilst on the same line, possibly getting attacked at times or questioned or whatnot. But you start liking someone too much, then there can be a bit of conflict of interest, right? Whether you see someone just as a friend or more than a friend, or you just look up to someone online. It can blind people's thoughts, so that if it gets to that level and extent, and if it's by masses of people, the golden boy or the golden poster, the one at the top, the pinnacle, could be considered Caden Pressey, and you measure anything and everything that comes by other people's actions and words. If it doesn't match up to the level of Caden Pressey in attitude, behaviour, or recounting of stories, if it doesn't quite reach that level or magnitude, then it's just not good enough, or it's just not true enough. And that people use it as like a measuring stick, and that's not exactly natural. And that anyone else that comes along the way that may question Caden Pressey or be a bit uncertain, or just a little bit unsure, they might get attacked, they might get banished, they might get blocked, all kinds of stuff. Now, I'm not going to have that issue as much here because this is my channel. People can't, kick me off in that sense, but maybe if in the past I was a bit more questioning of some, and I actually left comments on Facebook, which I don't, but if I did, then could have been a different story. But hopefully people get what I'm getting at in general. So I'm just wiping a little bit of makeup off, if you didn't know. My eyebrows went a little bit blue last night. Ask Beauty Gurumo, in case you were wondering. You can also check the video out last night. You'll see it top right corner of the screen, okay? But besides that, if people are going to be skeptical of the Mikey Lair Snapchat with the timestamp provided, it's deemed not good enough. Why? This is where the questioning comes in. The reason why people from the light side not everyone, but some will question Mikey Les' Snapchat post, which was taken from Logan Jernigan's point of view because she was holding the phone. It's not good enough because the platform, the service that's used, which is Snapchat, when you take photos on it, you can edit, alter the date or time. So people will be thinking that, oh, you've used Snapchat, you've taken a snap, well, likely it's going to be altered with, manipulated, you can actually edit it. The next question, though, would be, well, if that's the case, why do you jump to that conclusion? Is it because it's with those people you've had bad encounters with in the past? Not directly Mikey, but in terms of those that may have got a hold of the phone or the photo, the snap, and then decide to pass it on or reveal it publicly or at some point with the photo or just the timestamp by itself. That would mean there is like a historical biasness towards some groups of people, the dark side, or a historical grudge or distaste for some people because of how you've been impacted or negatively affected by certain said individuals back then, that whatever happened back then with these said individuals, that what happens now or in the future, you're going to be extra cautious and skeptical. Fair enough. But I'd like to know, though, is if you look back to a particular photo, even if it's not a Snapchat post, but it was just taken from one's phone device, an iPhone, like Caden Pressey, Brylan Sweat slapping Noah Presgrove. Caden Pressey said it happened at 1:30 in the morning. Later proven to be wrong. It actually was at 1:05 a.m. and it shows that within the photo, screenshot of the video in the gallery default app mode, which shows the outline and then the date and time up top. But as I said, with that being on iPhone, you can go into that photo or that screenshot, you can edit it, you can change the time and date. Why don't people question that? Because people's response would be, well, we don't need to, because it's Caden Pressey. And that's where it gets a little bit biased. So that's why you got to try and disconnect with people in the case. You know, there will be times, and there have been times where it felt a little bit awkward, where I've made a video and it could be deemed negative of someone, and that someone I might neutrally get on well with, or how they've treated me previously has been positive. And I could be thinking awkwardly, me making this video, whilst it's for the case and for Noah and in a balanced way, is the said individual going to understand that and see it from that point of view? Or are they going to feel or think that I'm directly attacking them, backstabbing them all of a sudden, which then can create its own problems? But you can't think too much about that because it then can impact the quality of the video or beyond. So I just do what I need to do, and then hopefully it's worded as best as it can be, and hopefully whoever is on the receiving end or those listening into it can understand. And for most part of it, it has been understood and it has worked out. Those that may have misunderstood tend to be people where it's not directed about them, where it's just complete strangers. I mean, once again, just to reiterate, I've done videos not in response, but I've done videos around the theme of Jan Fiorillo. But Jan understood and was still positive towards me afterwards, which is good. There's an understanding. Same with Caden Pressey to an extent. Same with Justin Roy. Key named individuals who, whether directly involved in the case, caught up in the case, or just a part of the community, and a handful of other names as well. Familiar people, faces you'd be aware of, who can understand it at least when I do my stuff. But when other people try and do it, not in terms of videos, but more so post, repost, it ends up getting lost in translation. Things get a little bit confused. And that's just down to language and wording. And I'd like to address one thing right here, right now. I would like to give myself a round of applause. But the simple fact is that when it comes to certain names out there indirectly associated, dragged into this case, that spelling goes a long way, because the way some people have been spelling has been complete piss poor, which has then led to being confused, which has then led to people then questioning or attacking me, such as that supposed attorney called John Doe, that said, "Oh, Raph, you're making me laugh. It's rather amusing, all this. I told you all this before. I said about it all in the past." John Doe, whilst I may make you laugh, which is somewhat of a positive thing, you do not make me laugh. Your whiny, whingy tone bores me. Your presence bores me, okay? Reality is, when it comes to Noah's ex-girlfriend, to word it better for people in general, Noah's girlfriend at the time of the party which Noah attended, which the girlfriend did not, but somehow at some point Jack Newton flirted with Noah's girlfriend. Around the time of the party, a week before, who knows? As for the name of Noah's girlfriend at the time, Fallin Durbin. Okay? But how did people spell it? Well, first of all, in terms of how it's actually spelt, from what I can remember roughly, I think it's Falyn, something like that. But in terms of how other people have spelt it since, other people said Fallon, Fallon. Fallin, or Phelan. It sounds like two different individuals, does it not? And when you look at the spelling as well, definitely two different individuals, but it's the same person. It's just that some people spelt it wrong and other people spelt it correct. So at a time of when I saw the correct spelling, I was like, oh yeah, okay, that person, I got it, I understand it, back then. And then a few days ago, I looked at a spelling, Fallon, Fallon. I'm thinking, wait, is this a different girlfriend? An ex-girlfriend before the girlfriend at the party? What the fuck? And then John Doe, the whingy, whiny, impetuous individual, which is a non-participant over observation, and that is all, ends up having a go at me. Clearly, there's been a misunderstanding along the way, and clearly, at least to my knowledge, previously in the past, I was on the right wavelength. It's just how other people worded it in between, which then caused a bit of confusion. I had it under control. There we go. Well done, WarLike Wrath. Thank you. Thank you. Where's Beauty Garumo? High fives all around. Yeah? Yeah? Careful, Beauty. You don't want to slap me in the face again. Gonna turn into a real petty individual if you do that. My goodness, gonna turn me into WarLike Karen, and you do not want that. No. So you can kind of understand how things can become a mess. Such a small scale thing. But named individual or not, if there was like a common knowledge that Noah Presgrove had a girlfriend at the time, but they just didn't attend, that's good enough. And let's not forget the countless people that say he said, she said, and you're supposed to try and follow along with it, like you're supposed to know on the spot who people are referring to. There's been countless times where I've had to try and carry the text or the comment because how it's worded, it's a bit difficult in the first place if there's no bullet points, full stops. I'm talking like a robot at times when relaying it. But more importantly, where there's a lot of context lacking, so I've actually got to put words into people's mouths for it to make more sense for the people listening to it on here. So I've got to do double the work at times, or at least try to just make sure people know what's what. Let's not forget the time when we had the bingo hall session, and I'm not talking about Kathy Bingham, talking about the time of when you had that endless list of initials and names. So there was that. That took some time to try and remember them all. there was a period back then where initials were used because people weren't allowed to use full names, or there was some silly restrictions, and in the end it all blew out, and it was like, oh, we'll just use the people's proper names now. Hallelujah. But still, till this day, not everybody refers to names or initials. They just say he or she. And when there's so many people involved in this case or caught up within it, he and she does just not cut it. We need to know who you're referring to exactly. Just that consistency. That's why I do what I do, or at least try to most of the time. But yeah, there we go. So as for anyone else that's, joining or watching, be sure to rewind back to the beginning just so you don't miss out on anything. Is there any other little bits and bobs to get into or refer to in terms of my point of view? I guess what I would say or highlight is when it comes to the cause of death of Noah Presgrove, because there are so many different elements and factors and areas and events and sub-events and supposed events and people as well in 2 different locations and anything else in between. Looking at it one at a time, not being able to stitch it all together just yet, because obviously with all the conflict, it just doesn't quite gel that well. So by looking at it bit by bit and focusing in, there are certain elements, the overall important questions, which may be on hold. So whilst at a time I might have been focusing more in on the cause of death, the actual outcome and the reasoning and the causes behind it all and theorizing, whilst I was able to do so then, as of right now, not quite able to, because I'm looking at all the other little small bits and bobs in between. But if someone said to me right now, what do you think the cause of death is? Well, whatever I said back then, more so theories and ideas with appropriate wording and language, would I still apply that right now? All I would say is I can't at this moment in time, because I'm thinking and focusing on other stuff. So I can't, overlap one with the other. I've got to just work with whatever I've got, what's ever in my mind in the moment, and understand that first. And then if I can bring back stuff from the past and apply it in the future or close to the present with them, might be able to. But yes, we looked at the odd autopsy diagram recently. The method of clothing, condition, location, why it ended up in that particular spot. So many little sub-factors and questions upon questions. So if there was ever an even flow or a level of stability, consistency amongst different people and timelines properly, then it might be more possible. But there's so many bits and bobs to get to and also then refer back to. It's not like you're going in a straight line, constantly moving forwards, constantly making progression. You might move so many steps forwards, and then you got to take many more back to reach a previous checkpoint to catch up, follow up on things you may have missed out on at the time. You reflect back on it now, and so on. As for video ideas, I'll look back at what's available or what's needed. And if there's any other screenshots which need to be acknowledged, which I've not given enough time to do so, I can. As for the shorts, I'll have to try and follow up on that, or at least try. Should be the next thing. Just with the timing today and video in the background and whether I can get out or not, depending on timing, it's kind of slow things down. That's why I just wanted to get this out now, just to share where thoughts are at currently and highlight the possible double standards, highlight the possible biasness at times from either side, okay? As for predictions where things are going, what I would say is, prediction-wise, it wouldn't surprise me that any human that decides to become a worshipper of another area out there, let's just put it like that, my mind thinks, well, you're showing your true colours and attitude, linking up with certain people like that when returning back, no red carpet treatment whatsoever. Once a cancer, always a cancer. And that's not in terms of the medical condition, it's more so in terms of a wording description of how a human can be, and I've seen that with time. About once I see it once, yeah, could be lenient, could be understanding, doesn't go away, it remains, it can get worse. So I've got to protect myself, got to be cautious. As for my predictions, the way it can shift within a community can be quite drastic and sudden. We've seen waves and shifts of it previously, not as much recently, but I'm sure there'll be a burst at some point where it be to do with the theme of Caden Pressey or the theme of Alicia Lee, people's outlook, perspective of them, how that can shift and change up. People's perspective of the dark side, where some from the light merge with the dark or reach a common ground in between. Okay? And speaking of common ground, that's the next little mention I can bring up briefly is, and this applies to anyone watching right now and even with future cases, if you ever feel that a case is going cold or progression is very slow or it's happening in the background, so publicly you just don't know, it's the uncertainty that kills you in a way, frustration, disappointment, the next or best thing you could possibly do is either look back on the case, reflect, or look at what's present in the moment amongst the material, people's opinions, outlooks, perspectives, that if one of the common themes and issues within a case or community is that there is disruption, disagreements, and people not seeing eye to eye, try and find a particular point or question or theme in the case where most people can agree on. So then you establish some kind of stability, and then it adds a little bit of perspective that it's not the complete end of the world. Sometimes people could be thinking irrational, but for them it's rational at the time that, oh, it seems completely hopeless, or that it's just complete destruction, darkness clouded over, dark people out there, truly nasty and evil. Maybe, maybe not. But is there ever a time where there's said individuals or presences, events, where it's not as dark as it seems? You know? I mean, I can't really... What kind of example could I mention very roughly? So at a time of when there was a hound of people that were dragging JJ through the mud, and not that I'm including myself, I was just simply documenting what was happening at the time, trying to give perspective, but other people that initially brought JJ's name into the mix of things in the first place, at a time of when I was like, who the hell is JJ Bumpass? I even said it wrong, but that's just how it was at the time. But individuals that brought the name in and started applying it and questioning, and maybe even create the odd fake account to then communicate with JJ, or more so Colton, on behalf and questions to do with JJ, and complete mess, disaster, shouty tones, capital letters in the background as well by some who have gone quiet since. At the end of the day, it's a complete mess, shit show at the time, but some may have been given some immunity for a bit, others were just completely casted aside just for questioning Caden Pressey, a little bit imbalanced, but nevertheless, that when that did happen, and then people suddenly switched up on JJ, and then were suddenly his supporter and friend and defended him. It's like, whoa, you were against him before. Oh, now you're licking him almost. Sudden change up can be very drastic. Is it natural to change up? Not always. So you got to be careful for that. Just because someone changes for the better, don't mean to say it's natural, don't mean to say it's long term. Got to be careful and cautious there. Hence why I do what I do on my channel, because it's needed. Just like when I see a cancer, it needs to be treated with by the doctor at hand, which is myself, Dr. WarLike Wrath. But that aside, any other predictions in between, as for progression in the case, well, little bits of progression here and there. Maybe hopefully the next bit of progression can be the white shorts to determine whether it's true or not. And if it's true, does that send shockwaves through the case? Does that once again counter Caden Pressey? I guess time will tell. But of course, if there is some kind of material like that to prove or disprove, it needs to be clear enough or decent enough for it to give that perspective. If not, I'm sure people will not be satisfied. So my prediction would be to that is, if there is counter material out there, once again, the patterns and themes are, it'll be provided, presented, shown. People will say, oh, it's not clear enough. Video quality is blurry. We can't determine it for sure. Video length is too short. Angling of how they hold the camera, not good enough. Oh, well, maybe go back in time, use time traveling, back in the future, whatever, go back to the party and tell them, can you just angle the phone just a little bit more? Yeah, actually, do you know what? Just get get Beauty Gurumo to head on down to the party house, go back in time, get the tripod up, because at the end of the day, you look at that party house, oh my God, Beauty Gurumo leaving your light stand in the background of that party house from Caden Pressey's point of view, where he's panning the camera around, and you see that circular ringed light. I think that belongs to you, Beauty. When you apply it, when you're doing the TikTok videos, why is it there? Oh my God, some kind of conspiracy. Did you actually know the individuals? Oh my God, Beauty, you got a lot of explaining to do. No time for makeup, just spill the tea, okay? But that's just being light-hearted, that, okay? But, you know, in the moment, at the time of the party, videography, photography, it's not going to be done in that sense. People are just having a good time. Video quality can be poor, photo quality can be dodgy, shaky, blurry. You're not there to take photos, high-end stuff, you're just there to have a good time and maybe take some photos, videos to create memories along the way. But if you are a bit drunk or high energy, you're a bit shaky, well, and you're not a photographer, it's not going to come out great. So you just work with what you got, as in the social media post and material like that. It might not be good enough, it might not be the best quality, but were they planning on that at the time? No. Well, if they're not planning on having high quality photos at the time, so it's very clear to see or determine what's right, what's wrong, then are they going to be thinking at the same time as well, we probably should do it this way or do it that way to make sure that this case goes a certain way? Is everything all planned out or not at all? If nothing's planned out, does that mean that everyone's innocent? Not always. You can get a sloppy job, on the spot moment or idea. Oh, kind of like how I do some of my videos. But no. So I think we'll leave it there for now. And as for the common ground, that's just where you look at examples or moments where people started seeing eye to eye on a particular area, even if it was opposing forces, but now seeing the same things. That's a bit of movement and progress. Could that happen with those that are doubtful, questioning of Caden and or Alicia, people from the light side that supported or showed understanding towards Caden and Alicia, now see it from the dark side perspective? Could that happen now? Could that happen in the future? There's a chance. I guess it also depends on responses from others and if there's any other counter evidence along the way. But once again, as I said, at this moment in time, we're dealing with material, Snapchat post, photos, some kind of physical hard evidence versus against some people's opinions that they disagree with it. Words versus supposed evidence. Maybe at time there can be some counter points added to reinforce what they think, but I've yet to see that. So just observations at the end of the day. My name's WarLike Wrath. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. Be sure to hit the like button, share button, so more people can see this. It might help people down the line, who knows? And for those that watch and catch up, as said, if you want to support the channel, down below in the comment section, pinned, there's a link to PayPal. And more importantly, if you want to catch up on recent videos and playlist, I symbol up there. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Goodbye. Good night for now.